Welcome to the Triple S podcast, where we discuss the scoreboards, the standings, and the statistics. Today we'll discuss the recent Christian McCaffery trade in the NFL, the state of the NFC East, and the teams with the best chances in the MLB Playoffs. But first, we start with the big bombshell in the NFL in these last couple of days. Christian McCaffery was traded from the Carolina Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers 2 days ago. He was traded for a second, third, and fourth round picks in this upcoming draft, alongside a fifth round pick for next year's draft. And I think this trade, more than anything, really shows the mindset of both this Carolina team and this San Francisco team. Carolina, with this trade, has basically gotten rid of their last star, and it shows that they've really committed themselves to tanking, which means that a good team might be in the very distant future, because they don't have a future of the franchise quarterback or anything like that. Currently, they have both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's having a very bad season over there. They're 1-5. They fired their head coach, Matt Rule, and it's obvious that they're trying to start with a new slate. And trading Christian McCaffrey does that for a good amount of picks, 4 picks. However, they didn't get a first-round pick for him, so that might be a concern. And as I said, Carolina no longer has a star on that team, so it's going to be some very bad seasons here in the future. And on the opposite side, San Francisco's trying to go all in, much like the Rams did before their Super Bowl winning season. The Rams got Matthew Stafford, now San Francisco has Christian McCaffrey, a star running back, and I think he'll fit really well into that San Francisco system, coached by Kyle Shanahan. And McCaffrey's going to help their team a lot, especially in getting the ball out of Jimmy G's hands. Garoppolo's had troubles with interceptions, with decision making in the past, and McCaffrey is such a versatile weapon, and he can be used in so many ways, especially across from Deebo Samuel, who the 49ers have right now. He could be used in a wide receiver sort of position, out of the backfield, and in the running back, obviously rushing. In his last full season, McCaffrey had over 1,000 receiving yards, not all of which were on the backfield. Sometimes he was in the slot, sometimes he was out wide. So it'll be interesting to see how San Francisco uses him here. I think that the 49ers are definitely the winners of this trade, because McCaffrey is going to provide instant results for them right here, as long as he stays healthy, though. That's the biggest gamble with McCaffrey. He's had some health issues and some injury issues these last 2 seasons, which have shortened his seasons, and that's going to be tough. But if he stays healthy, the 49ers they got a really good pickup here, and Carolina has essentially resigned themselves to the last place. They're in the NFC South, and maybe in the whole NFC for a couple years to come. Speaking of the NFC, we go to the NFC East, which is surprisingly one of the most interesting divisions in all of football. They have 2 of the best teams in the league, in the Eagles and the Giants, 2 teams that were not projected to be very good, but the Eagles are currently the only undefeated team in the NFL. They're 6-0, and the Giants are 5-1. The Eagles are led by star play by their sophomore quarterback. In his sophomore season, Jalen Hurts, who's been very active both throwing and rushing the football. We saw flashes of it last season, but that was mostly rushing, and it was late in the season when the Eagles season was mostly falling apart. But Hurts is really doing a really good job here, and the coaching staff is using him to their fullest potential. He's a MVP candidate for sure right here in the middle of the season. And the Giants are a more surprising case because they don't have that star player, but rather they had a lot of raw talent in the last couple years, because they were tanking, which means they have a lot of high draft picks. And it was finally put together by a competent coaching staff here. They finally got a good head coaching hire in Brian Daboll. Joe Judge was the head coach from 2017 to 2020. They fired him before this season. And he was somebody who it was obvious he didn't trust his team, and he was not a very good play caller. He was also coach that was very inexperienced, unlike Dabble, who has experience in multiple teams here, and he's really a rising star in the NFL. And I think, however, that the Eagles are the most solid team in that division rather than the Giants, because the Eagles have more of the complete package. They have weapons on the outside, they have an offensive line, and they have Jalen Hurts. While I could see the Giants being more inconsistent this season and maybe tapering out towards the end of the season. However, it's obviously a great start for both teams, and they get the easy opponent in the Redskins, the Commanders, in that NFC East division. And so we'll see how far they go. I think that the Eagles have the best chance of winning the division and have the best chance of getting a high seed in the playoffs. And speaking of the playoffs, we move now to a different sport, which is in full swing of their playoffs, the MLB Playoffs. The pennants, the league pennants, are at stake here in the NLCS. Both of the wild cards, the Phillies and the Padres, are prevailed, upsetting statistically better teams in the Dodgers and in the Braves, respectively. And on the other side, in the AL, it's the favorites. It's the Astros and the Yankees. And I think it'll be very interesting to see, both in this conference series and in the World Series, the interesting contrast between the teams that are building in the Phillies and the Padres versus the teams that have sort of reached the pinnacle of the league with a lot of splashy free agent picks in the Astros and the Yankees. I think that the Yankees in the ALCS take the win. They're just too talented to lose here in the playoffs a lot. And they have Aaron Judge, who's having this monster season. But on top of that, they have a stacked lineup and even more stacked pitching in Cole and the rest of that rotation. And I think that's going to be too much for the Astros. And on the other side, I think that the Padres are just a more consistent team. If you remember, the Phillies, they were struggling in the beginning of the season. There was talk about firing. Sorry, there wasn't talk. They did fire Joe Girardi in the middle of the season as they were hovering around 500 near the trade deadline. But they've made a resurgence here. However, I don't think they're the most consistent team. The Padres have Machado leading them, and they have Blake Snell and other people in that rotation that can really help them out here in the consistency factor. And in the World Series, I think, again, the Yankees are just too talented to lose. I take them against the Padres in 5 in the World Series. I think it's going to be a very dominant performance here the rest of the way for them, as have been for the rest of the season in the playoffs. This is just an all-class, all-time Yankees roster here that's going to really go down in the record books. And I think it'll be a very interesting as they go forward. Aaron Judge, obviously, this is the last season of his contract, and we'll see how the Yankees go forward. But they're right now my picks to win the World Series here. But that does it for me here at the Triple S Podcast. I'll be back soon to talk more about the NFL and college football, and then the starting of the NBA, which starts opening night was a couple nights ago, and now we'll see more about the teams and their identities here. So please stay tuned, and thank you for listening.